Or would you know, pursued the ghost, the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was full as heavy and as long as this, 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since.
Grace with Music City Review, and I'm here with Micah-Shane Brewer from Nashville Rep, and we're here to talk about his adaptation of A Christmas Carol, which I have a bunch of questions for you. I'm very interested in the whole, besides just doing it for the Nashville Rep and dealing with rehearsals and what your role as an artistic director does. I'm also really interested in your adaptation experience and everything that goes along with that.
Sure.
But I guess just to start, I'll kind of read a little bit from y'all's kind of preview, where you say, in this new heartwarming and spectacular production of A Christmas Carol, artistic director Micah-Shane Brewer brings Charles Dickens' classic story to life on stage. Join the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future as they lead the miserly, prosperous curmudgeon, which points just for those 3 words in a row, Ebenezer Scrooge on a journey of transformation and redemption. Through these encounters, Scrooge learns the true meaning of Christmas and the importance of kindness and generosity. The production features stunning sets and costumes that transport the audience to Victorian England, and the timeless story is sure to be loved by audiences of all ages. So just reading through that, I see you guys are already kind of indicating some of the tone of the adaptation. So heartwarming and spectacular, it sounds like you're going all, stunning sets and costumes, going all out. Heartwarming makes it sound like you're being sincere. This isn't like a mocking reboot, or you're trying to fix the story. And then audiences of all ages. So it sounds like you're focusing a lot on the family-friendly aspects of the adaptation.
Yeah, you hit all the points right there. Yeah, it's A Christmas Carol is a really touching story for me. I've always loved this story. I've seen so many different film adaptations and stage adaptations. I've been in I think I have been in 5 different, and I've directed 4 different adaptations. So I think this is my 10th time doing A Christmas Carol. And it's just always been a story that really touched me and resonated with me in a way that other Christmas stories don't as deeply. And so when we started talking about what holiday show we were going to do, I thought it might be nice to revisit A Christmas Carol and do our own new adaptation of that piece, so we could craft it in the way that we wanted to. But before we decided to write it, I started reading some adaptations that I had been in before. I read some new adaptations of the script. And while they were good, what I didn't like about many of them was that there's a lot of adaptations that use the device of narration to tell the story. Charles Dickens, his language, the Dickensian language, is beautiful, and he uses some very colorful and descriptive ways to tell and describe the location and the feel of the story. But I didn't want to use narrators to tell the story. I wanted to just immerse our audiences in the world of 1843 London, and be able to fully realize a big show, a big production that kind of encompassed all the color and the nuances and the location and the spectacle of what that should feel like as an audience member. So I started writing the adaptation, I believe it was in February, and the first draft took me about 3 months working off and on, tweaked it a little bit. We did a table read back in the summer, did some more edits, and we're actually still working on it. Like in rehearsals, we'll be working on the scene. I'll say, let's cut that line, or let's change this to this. So it's nice to have that flexibility to be able to mold it and craft it the way we want to in the rehearsal room, and not be stuck to a script that is already in existence that we have to perform as written. So that's been very freeing and very nice for us. And also hearing the cast, they will give feedback of, this feels really good, but can we add this word, or is it okay if I change this to this? And so that's been very nice to be able to have that collaboration in the room. to just make it our own and make it a new version that we're going to share with audiences here in a couple of weeks.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I had a question about that. I found a website online, and it had the Nashville repertories, just previous seasons back to the late 80s all listed. So just scrolling through that, I saw that in the 90s they did A Christmas Carol a bunch of years in a row. Mm-hmm. But then since then, I think y'all have done it once since 2002, and all the other ones were A Christmas Story. Mm-hmm. Do you know, was that the same adaptation they were doing each year, and you're doing it totally fresh, or have they switched around a lot?
Yeah, I believe they did the same adaptation for a period of a few years back to back. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the actual years. We did an adaptation in 2019, so the Christmas right before the pandemic, which was a different type of, it was like a 5-character version where the 5 actors played all the characters in the show, and then Tiny Tim was a puppet. And so it was clever and fun, but it also didn't have the, as far as the spectacle, we wanted something that had a large cast, that had all ages. So that's why we kind of decided to do a more traditional version of A Christmas Carol.
Okay. So for this adaptation, this kind of ties back a little bit to tone, but so in prepping for this, I've read A Christmas Carol a couple times, and I've seen the Jim Carrey animated movie version, which was fine whenever that came out. But I just flipped to the first page of it, and I just forget how strange A Christmas Carol is, because it's subtitled A Ghost Story of Christmas, and you're like, that we don't really think of Christmas as a ghost story thing anymore. And then on the first page, he's like, Marley was dead as a doornail. Why are we talking about doornails? Coffin nails sounds more dead. Then he cracks a joke about if Hamlet's dad wasn't a ghost, the whole beginning would be totally different. And then later in the book, there are some really dark moments. Mm-hmm. Potential child dying because of somebody else's actions. You have, I think it's the ghost of Christmas Present, like within his robe, he has want and ignorance, and there are these starving children that are symbols of like present needs. So how did you figure out a way to balance that with being still sincere and like kind of true to the original thing, but also family friendly and, just balanced in tone?
Sure. No, that's a great question. I mean, to answer that question, we need to talk about the purpose of A Christmas Carol and why Dickens wrote it. Because Dickens, when he toured one of the workhouses and had read a pamphlet, or not a pamphlet, when he read information about the conditions of the workhouses, and especially conditions of child labor in the 1840s, he wanted to write something that would appeal to people so they would know what was going on. And his original intention was to write a pamphlet with all the information. And then he had the idea that I'm going to write this story, and I'm going to create this central character, this Ebenezer Scrooge, and shed light on this in a work of fiction, as opposed to just talking about the situation. But I mean, like the character of Martha Cratchit, Martha has, when she comes home for Christmas in the Christmas Present sequence, she's been at the workhouse. She had to work 16 hours. She spent the night there because they had a very strict schedule at the workhouse where she works in the milliner's shop. And this was happening all over. Children were basically abused because of the working conditions. They had to work. A lot of families were poor. A lot of families were, if they couldn't pay their bills, they would go to debtor's prison. So he wrote this as a response to the current situation of the time. Now, with it being a ghost story and some of the heavier topics in the show, I think we deal with it very well, with that. It's not so much like spooky, scary story, right? But we set it in this setting of people preparing for Christmas. We see people on the street. We see people going about their days, and then we're introduced to Scrooge, and then we learn a little more about him. But the show or the play and the book, this story has always what has rung true for me as a person responding to the work is that two things. Number one, it's never too late to change. And number two, it's our responsibility to help each other. And I feel like we need to hear that more today than ever because of all the turmoil and all the things that are going on in the world, the wars and the political divide and everything that's happening in our country, that it has a heartwarming message, but it also has, I don't want to say an agenda because that's not really the thing, but it has a message that we have to say, and we have to remind ourselves and others that we have a responsibility to each other. We have a responsibility to our neighbor. We have a responsibility to ourselves to make the world a better place. And so that's the message for me. That's always been the message for me with Christmas Carol, is that this miserable old man who has lost love and has lost so many people around him because he turned his back on life and focused solely on money, gets a second chance to make things right. And he has to go through hell and back. He has to go through these memories of past. He has to see what's happening around him in the present and see what potentially could happen to him in the future if he doesn't change. And I don't know that I answered your question very well, but like it to me, the balance of the feel good holiday feel, the music of Christmas, and also just the seriousness of things happening and how people's actions can affect others. For instance, Scrooge pays his employee, Bob Cratchit, a very measly salary for a family of 8. And he has a son who is in poor health. And his action of not being a very good man is affecting other people. He is loaning money to people who can't pay it back. And then as a result, they have to pay more money, or they lose their house, or they go to debtor's prison. Like, all of these things are impacting other people. And I think that's one of the messages for me, is that how are my actions and how are our actions as human beings, how do they impact and affect others? So yeah, that's kind of like where this story resonates for me. That every year it's just kind of we reevaluate at the end of the year. What can I do better? How can I be a better human? How can I impact society for the good and not for selfish reasons?
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great thing to say, and then it feels a little more genuine Christmas spirit rather than saying like believe in Santa and his sleigh will fly. It's actually more like let's celebrate it, and celebrate it by enacting generosity. And I feel like, at least as a person in the US who's in a stable position and everything, it's very easy to not think of yourself as Scrooge, but often you can unconsciously be withholding from your community and things like that, which, even if he's not directly making someone go to the workhouse, but he's indirectly totally causing it. So
sure. And I mean, like, and I'm not going to get political, but in a way I am. You have half of the country who want to create programs and laws and pass bills that help people and bring everyone up, and you have another half of the country who's like, you're not like me, I don't want anything to do with you, and you don't have the same rights as I do, and what's mine is mine, and you have to go get yours, right? And so the inequalities and the way that our system has shifted over the years, and we have such a divide in the country. I mean, everyone knows there's such a divide in the country, and we have two totally different ways of looking at the world, and and everyone feels like they're right. This is, I'm right, you're wrong, or it's to me, there is hope out there, even though some days it doesn't feel like it, and that there's hope out there and that hopefully everyone will understand that we have to do better. We have to do better as a country. We have to do better as a society. We have to do better as families and communities. And my hope for the audience is that everyone reflects on how they can be a better citizen, human being, friend, family member, and institute that change in the new year, you know?
Yeah, and I think that ties in really nicely with 9 to 5, which I think, did y'all start the season with 9 to 5? So a lot about empowerment and equality in the workplace. And then you had Violet, where someone has, I don't know if you want to say disability, but they have a thing on their face which causes other people to treat them differently. So I feel like this ties in very nicely.
Our season slogan is "Be Brave," you know, and all of our shows in some form or fashion deal with someone who takes a bold step forward in a situation or circumstances that are a little scary.
Yeah. Well, this is a slight shift from what we were talking about, but I was really curious. So when I saw in the preview that you guys mentioned stunning sets and costumes, spectacular Victorian England, I was curious because sometimes you'll see an adaptation about people, and a lot of the characters in this, not all of them, but some of the characters that get extended scenes, the Cratchits, are poor. So you end up seeing a lot of just, like brown, kind of scruffy looking, poor person clothing. But it seems like you guys are going all out. So you're having, I don't know how much it has with just the sets, but also the costumes, like you're going colorful or big or vibrant or something like that.
Yeah. So first of all, yeah, the design is huge. And I'm happy to show you, if you'd like to see.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the work. Give me just a second and I can share my screen with you. So the set, these are some of the earlier renderings of the set. This is the overall look that you'll see. It's a very large proscenium style design with an 1840s London streets, and in the far upstage area there is a projections screen that we project different scenic images. But this is the basic set of the show, and then along the way we have different pieces that fly in and roll in. We have 4 different slip stages that come on. Here you can see kind of the ground plan of all the different things that happen in this show. So we have a lot of things in the air. Over here's like the line set of where the electrics are, where the fly lines are, where different pieces fly in and out. And then we have, let's see here. So yeah, we have different pieces that come in and out. The 2 big pieces are Scrooge's counting house. Here's and these are like early sketches from the scenic designer, but this we call it a slip stage. It's like a rolling platform or a wagon that will roll on, and then the counting house takes place here. We have his bedroom, which is also a very large set that takes up a lot of place. This is actually an earlier draft. This is not the most recent draft. A lot of this moved around. The bed now lives on the opposite side, and the windows on the opposite side. Anyway, but you can kind of get a sense of the style of the show. But yeah, there's a lot of just moving pieces. I can show you real quickly some of the painting. Like there's a lot of signage in the show. So like Gary, our scenic designer, he's also the main scenic artist and will paint a lot of things. Just some of the detail in like Fred's parlor when we're at Fred's house. This takes hours and hours just to craft and paint. This is some fencing in the cemetery. So when we are in future, this is what the cemetery fencing looks like. And then here's an actual model. I'll show you, just flip through some of the pieces of the model. Gary Hoff, our scenic designer, he will build us a model, and it's really helpful for the actors to see the model so they can kind of see to scale what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
But this is kind of like what it looks like as far as and that's when the cemetery's down, the fence is down, there are gravestones in front of that. This kind of gives you just a sense of like the feel of it, the scope of it. So it's a huge set. It's probably one of the biggest sets that our scenic department has produced.
Oh.
And then our costume designs, I'll flip through some of these, but Melissa Derman is our costume designer, and she's very intentional in her color choices. So this is like the beginning of Scrooge, and you can see like we keep him in kind of a blue tones, and she could tell you a lot more about the color choices, but she has very specific purposes. And you'll see later on Ebenezer, all the actors. We have 4 different actors who play Scrooge throughout. We have a little boy Scrooge. We have young Scrooge at like age 10. We have Ebenezer when he's 18, 19. And then we have the older Scrooge. But some very rich costumes. So even like the poorer or the lower class characters, there's still vibrant colors. Do you know? So there's Bob Cratchit. There's Elizabeth Cratchit. So it's a huge show. There are, I believe, over 500 different pieces of costumes used in the show.
Wow.
Yeah. They've been hard at work. They're building a lot of stuff. There's the ghost of Jacob Marley. There's the housekeeper. This is the ghost of Christmas Past. She's very, she has kind of an angelic feel, but we didn't want her to look like an angel or like a fairy. We wanted her to feel more like ethereal, very almost Renaissance-y, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, and then there are slight differences in the past and present. The past is like turn of the century, so like late 1700s, early 1800s. So the fashion was a little different, not a lot, but a little different. So here are some of the past costumes and her original renderings. Notice that Ebenezer is in blue here, even when younger, and Belle is in this purple tone, and then she gets a little darker and deeper in purple later on in life. Yeah, so Ghost of Christmas Present. So there are tons of costumes in the show. We have a cast of 20. There are 21 actors in the cast, but 23 actors total. The 2 youngest actor tracks are shared with 2 different young actors, just because of the demanding schedule and trying to make sure that they, don't get too tired. And so we switch out we call it our red cast and our green cast, and they switch out different performances.
Oh, good. It would kind of suck to overtire a child in a adaptation about child labor being bad. So
yeah, exactly. And then Christmas Future. This is so we go from this ethereal, like angelic, like past ghost to Christmas Present being this jolly giant to Christmas Future being more like a ghost, more of this like scarier type look. So that's kind of a look at some of the costumes and scenic pieces, and yeah, it's really cool. It's so fun to watch. I don't know if you can see this on your screen. I'll show you this very quickly. But yesterday, Melissa brought in the framework for Christmas Future.
Oh.
It's so Ben, who plays Christmas Future, it's in like a hiking backpack with this apparatus that's attached to it. So Christmas Future, I think, is somewhere between 10 and 11 feet tall.
Oh, goodness. That'll make it super imposing. That's really cool.
So there's a video there of him moving. Well, maybe not. So he has these pieces, and he'll have a harness right there, and these points that pick him up and fly him.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
That's really exciting.
Yeah, so it's a large show. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. We started in May. We started having production meetings where we talked about the design of the world of the play, and a lot of thought, a lot of hard work goes into it. On top of the designers, we have a full production team. So we have a production manager, technical director, props master. We have outside lighting designer, projections designer, sound designer. I brought on a colleague who is a composer, arranger, and he took a couple of. I wrote three new songs that are in this. So he arranged those and arranged some carols that we have interspersed throughout the script. So,
so is the music like they're performing a musical number, or is it more incidental music?
It's both, actually.
Okay.
Both. So the opening of the show, as you mentioned earlier, the book starts with Marley was dead to begin with, and I didn't want to create that tone. I wanted it to be London. People are getting prepared for Christmas, but I will say this: we do stay very true to the Dickens story. We don't change a lot of things. We fleshed out a couple of things that aren't in the actual novel, just kind of some in between moments. But I wanted something that created this, wonderful Victorian Christmas world, and so I wrote an opening number just to kind of set the mood and the tone of the piece. And then we have some carolers throughout who are caroling through some transitions. And some of the transitions, when we go into the past, you'll see street people, and there's some songs in there. At the Fezziwig party, there's some fun dance. There's a big wassail number where they're doing their toasts and cheers. So yeah, there's music all the way through it, because Christmas music to me has always been a very important part of the holiday season. So I wanted songs to help move the story along, and so it's fun. And we also have some of our cast members who play live instruments as well. So you'll see some of the actors who will break out instruments throughout the show.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. That'll make it fun. I mean, it's called A Christmas Carol, and it's
right.
What each bit is called a verse or a stave. Each chapter, So it ties in really nicely.
When you hear that someone's adapting a piece, you sometimes people will assume that it's like a new angle, or it's changing the purpose, or something strange about it. But it's very traditional. We are very faithful to the Dickens story, and we just we're having a lot of fun. It's a fun show. So.
Well, excellent. Well, I'll just end then saying y'all are performing A Christmas Carol December 1st through 17th. It's at TPAC and the James K. Polk Theater. And tickets seem to range between $57 and $85 depending on where people want to sit. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the show.
Great.